My name is Patrick. I write stories under the name P.S. Patton, and I want to say thank you to Jessica at Shining the Light blog for having me. My debut novel is called The Withering, and it's due to be released sometime in 2021 or 2022, according to my publisher, Ambassador International. I'm a husband and a father and a photographer and videographer by trade, and I'm also a songwriter and musician when time allows. I've always been a writer. I've written hundreds of songs, most of which have been recorded and performed by my rock band, Oh My Land, which has been sort of dormant ever since kids came into the picture for all of the members of the band at the same time.
The stars are falling to the earth to show you what your wish is worth. Our love is dead and buried. Bless the soil and wish a body rests.
Though we often talk about starting things back up, and I don't doubt we will make another record at some point in the not too distant future. Aside from songwriting, I also really enjoy poetry and prose, and when I was in high school, I won first place in a countywide poetry contest. That was the only poetry contest I ever entered. I was also the editor of the investigations page of my high school newspaper, and that's where I discovered that journalism and nonfiction writing was not really a passion of mine. For basically my entire adult life, it's been a hobby of mine to write screenplays, teleplays, graphic novels, even a musical. And yeah, for somebody who's used to the relatively instant gratification of songwriting, I couldn't be more excited to have something to show for all those years, just chained to a desk, hammering it out night after night. I can't remember a time when I didn't have a strong faith. I never had that moment, which most Christians speak of, where they made a decision to accept Christ and leave that life they're living behind. Yeah, I had just always known God ever since I can remember, and I've spent my life trying to get to know Him better. In high school, I became absolutely fascinated with the story of the Bible from start to finish, and the use of actual human lives and the rising and falling of empires as metaphors and symbols to convey a deeper message to the reader. It instilled in me the incredible truth that God truly is the first and best author, and that my passion for creating a complex, interwoven story comes from the fact that I was made in His image. Deep dives into the Bible help me to develop a passion for seeking the truth where it is concealed. Proverbs 25:2 declares, "It is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter," which is something that I have taken to heart as both a challenge during my studies and as an example to follow in regards to my own writing. I spent my childhood and teenage years writing and drawing comics, writing and playing songs on my guitar, chasing my little brothers around the house with a video camera, trying to get them to make a movie with me. And all of those are storytelling in their own way. Inspiration was all around me, from the films I watched, which sparked my imagination, to the comic books I read and tried to emulate, to song lyrics I admired. And that all kicked off a passion for storytelling and songwriting and entertaining. As I grew older, I began to fall in love with literature. I was so intrigued with stories that weren't afraid to go deeper and employed strong uses of symbolism and metaphor, such as East of Eden, which is my all-time favorite novel, Catcher in the Rye, Great Gatsby. These are all novels and stories that are heavy in symbolism and that really spoke to me as a teenager. And then there was the sheer adventure and creativity of series like Harry Potter and Chronicles of Narnia, The Dark Tower, and the Ransom trilogy. Film franchises like Star Wars that are still inspiring me with news stories like The Mandalorian, and pretty much any good sci-fi. Fantasy, of course, had an enormous influence on my drive to write as well. All in all, I would say that my decision to become a writer was much like my decision to become a Christian. It never really was a decision at all. it had just been happening all my life. So naturally my life influences my writing, and seeing as my faith influences my life, I don't see how my faith could not influence my writing. It's basically the transitive property of equality for my faith and my life and my writing. A story can have a strong influence on a reader's emotions, and that is something I do not take lightly. I hear too many people speaking of philosophies that they like for this reason or that reason, deciding what they want to believe based on how agreeable its tenets are with their own preconceived notions. I have full confidence that God's word is true, and that so long as I stick to what is true in regards to the heart of my story, I will never find myself in a position where I misled anyone into a vain and hollow philosophy simply because of its appeal. So basically, you know, if you've got this magic system or this religious system, and you got to keep notes and make sure that everything's, you know, keep the continuity the same throughout. I don't have that problem because I just stick to what's true. I may kind of substitute some things in this fictional world, but essentially the heart of what I'm doing is truth. So you have the Bible, which is truth, and you have genre fiction, which is fantasy. It's complete non-truth, right? But if at its heart and at its core is the message of truth and the eternal gospel that is stitching it together, that is hidden beneath text, well, even atheists have an innate ability to discern the temporal details of the fictional world from the eternal threads of truth. I think this story started kind of stirring in my heart in 2009. I just finished reading Stephen King's The Gunslinger. I fell in love with the author's voice, the way he wrote, and with the unbound depths and brilliance of his imagination. Yet I was utterly unsatisfied with his lack of direction and purpose. That is probably the appeal to some people, to some readers, but it wasn't for me. I like purpose. I like truth. I like something that imitates life. And for me, maybe not for everybody, but for me, life is full of purpose and goodness and love. Often general market fiction will not point to God intentionally, but will do so with indirect and strong messages of that which is good, standing strong, enduring, and eventually overcoming that rising and seemingly insurmountable force of evil, which threatens the world as our characters know it, like Star Wars, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, etc. So, the world of The Gunslinger was one of unquenched hopelessness. There was no good versus evil. There was no even clear good guy or bad guy. The good guy kind of is a bad guy. And Stephen King goes to great lengths to make that clear. And he doesn't conquer any evil. So while it was really inspiring in the language and the voice, it was also really, really unsatisfying to me in that regard. So reading it turned out to be one of the most inspiring wastes of time ever, in a way. And I kind of say that tongue-in-cheek. It wasn't a waste of time. I enjoyed the book. And I went on to read more books in that series and enjoyed them as well. But to this point, it was a glittering generality, a beautiful, powerful, and ultimately meaningless story. Upon finishing, I was left with a new inspiration to tell a story set in a similar world, one of hopelessness and despair and darkness, and to infuse into that world truth, that there is a light, and that there is a redemption, and that there is always hope, even in the most dire and inescapable situations. So kind of that Stephen King book left me wanting to see that world exposed to the truth and exposed to the light. Yes, I have a lot of projects in various stages of completion or incompletion, and I'm not sure exactly when or what we'll be ready to share next. I do have a short science fiction story that I entered into the Writers of the Future contest, and I'm excited to see if anything comes of that. I have 2 completed manuscripts, which are the first 2 installments of a children's picture book series that I have not yet found the time to properly pitch to agents. I have 1 manuscript that I feel really good about. I've finished the detailed outline phase and have moved on to the first draft, though I just barely started, and I'm getting really distracted revising The Withering, and I've got this other story in my head too, and I know you all know what that feels like. So we'll see how that goes. And that other story is this world which I've been building for over a decade now, and it has undergone so many variations, none of which have felt as meaningful or as grand as I've intended. So I've scrapped a lot of it. Many iterations of the story have just gone into the trash bin. To me, it's more than just a world to set a story in. It's a world that I've given so much thought to, and a star system which is brimming with interesting characters. I've developed races of humanoids I'm excited to introduce to you, and complex stories that I'm still figuring out exactly how to tell. I have a pervading feeling that the stories in this particular star system will be my favorite to write and my most exciting bit of writing. So I'm taking my time and letting the ideas form naturally, and there will be a time to sit and start crafting, but I like to save this world for when I can dedicate a proper amount of time, of regular time, to doing it justice. And finally, I've been writing a lot of songs lately, including worship songs that I have plans to share in the very near future. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are interested in hearing more on that. You can also follow my band Oh My Land, because that's probably where they'll end up. We're on Spotify or ohmylandmusic.com. After reading The Withering, I really hope that readers will take away an experience, a journey, and characters that they love getting to know. At the end of the day, if readers wanted to hear the gospel, they'd read the Bible or go listen to a sermon. Readers pick up a novel because they want to go on a journey. And while Christian readers would hope that the underlying message is one of truth, they still want a journey. And they want that journey to be incredible and impactful. So they want to see something new and inspirational. And they want to feel a range of deep emotions. I hope that Christian readers come to the final page of The Withering and feel all of those things and feel inspired to write something for themselves that rings true. And I hope they feel challenged to write something even better. I want to say thank you to Jessica at Shining the Light blog. If you want to hear more updates about The Withering, then just go to pspatton.com and sign up for my mailing list. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel or Instagram, any of my social media channels, and I update those regularly.